Sound? No sound.
And
I might.
okay, erase it if you need to.
Okay. I may not.
You good?
Yeah. Okay, dokie, we're talking history. So to just give you a little background on how all of this came about. The history is really relevant because it's something that has grown over 45 years. People ask me a lot, you know, when did you get this idea? Well, it wasn't like this whole idea just happened with one thought. The thing progressed from 1969 until now, and it's still going. And that's the point. It's going to keep progressing. It's a concept now that is evolving. So, seeing for you how and why they evolved, why is a big issue too. Why are we doing this? Well, you know, I get more. I guess you call it inspired. Sometimes it looks like I went to Copenhagen after for the what do you call it, those talks they were having on, I forget what they call them, but you know, it was the biggest waste of jet fuel and money that I have ever seen, and actually the whole thing was so depressing that I got inspired. So that's what you call negative inspiration or something, but so, and you know, the fracking now that's going on everywhere around the planet. I recently have gone to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to consult with some people who wanted to retrofit their house, and the guy turned on his faucet and lit it, you know, his sink faucet. So, the fracking is everywhere in this country. There's a big thing in Arkansas right now that fracking has destroyed some lake, and it's going to take, you know, 100 years and $30 billion to repair, and so on and so on. You can't really start repairing the earth to that extent, and of course, the meltdown in Japan of nuclear power plants. So these things just keep, you know, I guess you call it inspiration, but they keep driving me to do something to, first of all, take care of my own ass, but second of all, try to make it so that it's possible to live on this planet, you know, with 7 billion people without destroying it. So that's one of the things that has driven this, even all the way back to 1969, seeing little glimpses of that. Now it's a lot more significant now. You know, back in 1969, at least there were no meltdowns going on then, although very soon the 3 Mile Island one hit up in New York. And so there's serious things going on that make you want to do something, even if it's, and like I say, all of this started with me just saying, you know, how am I going to take care of my own ass? Well, I soon see that you can't take care of your own ass without involving a lot of people, because living on this planet involves a lot of people, not just yourself, so you end up thinking of all people. And then that brings me to another aspect of what has driven this is driving it big time now, is it's for everybody. It's for, you know, we say here sustainable autonomy for everyone. Well, that's the truth. Like, when they talk about green and sustainable and all of this crap, they're only talking about, most of the conversations that I have heard and been around have been about less than 20% of the people on the planet. They're only talking about the developed world people. And, you know, how do we get prices down and mortgage rates better and all of this kind of stuff. Well, 80% of the people on this planet don't even know what a mortgage is. And they're the majority. So why are all the efforts only about under 20% of the people on the planet? I picked that up from traveling around the world doing things, and saw that we're really only addressing all of the architects and LEED and sustainable and green and all of this. It's only addressing a very small portion of the people on this planet. And so we started really addressing in our minds all of them, and that has really caused us to change our whole look, which is why we're in this whole simple survival concept, which you're going to be involved in, actually start working on in a day or so, which is part of, one foot is in that world, the other foot is in the world of definitely addressing this under 20% of the people and doing things that work for the developed world. But my point is, the developed world is such a small portion, you know, it's a fifth of the population of the planet, so certainly all thinking has to involve the other 80% or it's worthless. So anyway, these are the overlying issues that have fueled this thinking, and they started off very minimal back in 1969. So the overall thing that I'll keep reminding you, and you'll put it all together with this as you go through this, is we did have to just come up with a whole new profession. Architecture sucks. It's not even happening. It's not even relating to what the world in front of us. So we had to come, you know, we couldn't change architecture. It's full of dogma and tradition and professional ethics and all this kind of stuff. And we're not professional and we have no ethics. So we had to come up with another word and called it biotecture. And the definition of biotecture is achieving sustenance through the encounter of Earth phenomena, just like the prairie dogs. You know, like one thing I tell everybody is, it's just this simple. I have a big black dog, he's dead now, but he would lay in the shade in the summertime, and in the wintertime he would lay in the sun. That's the whole story right there. You know, it's not rocket science. And none of this is rocket science. The phenomena of the planet are, you know, the sun, the wind, the rain, and gravity, and condensation, and thermal mass, and even lightning and rainbows. All aspects of biology and physics, and we keep discovering more. So we're just talking about recognizing those things and encountering them, as opposed encountering them for our sustenance, and making it simple enough that everybody can do it. And a lot of native peoples were doing it for centuries before we came along and just destroyed everything and try to recreate the Earth. But it's very simple. It's not rocket science. It's 8th grade biology and physics. And I think it does require you to change and meet it halfway. In other words, not like the old days and the hippies that are out here in New Mexico. New Mexico was the place where the hippies all happened. I was never a hippie. So they came out because they saw things going down the tubes. They just didn't like the way life was in the suburbs and stuff. They came out here and took drugs and lived in the woods and froze their asses off and went back to become realtors and lawyers. But they did make a point that things are screwed up, but they just didn't know how to do it. So then we come along, and people like us, and we start going into the woods and figuring out with 8th grade biology and physics how to live there and be halfway comfortable, and then how to be really comfortable. And so right now, you know, that both the global model Earthship, which is the real world, if that's what you want to call it, and the simple survival are both. I mean, the hippies wish they had those things. You know, they would have taken care of it. They'd still be there maybe. Because these buildings will stay at 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round in this climate. It gets super hot in the summer and super cold in the winter. And not to mention power, water, sewage, and all the other things that you're going to learn about. So these buildings came around, evolved over 40 years as a result of the same thing, looking around and seeing that things are not that great in how we're living on this planet. And it just keeps becoming more and more of an emergency. To me, it's a screaming emergency right now. I don't really talk about it that much that way because people think you're a freak, and they already think I'm a freak. So, but the encounter of natural phenomena, that was going on back in the ancient times. The pyramids did encounter not only earth phenomena, but they encountered phenomena from the sky. And that encounter really gave the people a lot of power, really, of how to live. Of course, you can tie that all back into Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient civilizations that are gone. People wonder what happened to them. I think my guess is they just left. You know, they got it together to live on this planet. They graduated. You know, not necessarily heaven, whatever that is. So anyway, it brings me to the way I synthesize all this thinking down into reality is 6 issues that civilization, humans, have to deal with. They are feebly trying to deal with these 6 things in every city and every country. They are garbage, water, the treatment of sewage, human waste in some way other than dumping it into rivers and streams and bays. We're heating, making shelter comfortable without fuel. And solar and, electricity produced by something other than a nuclear power plant, and food. Those are the 6 things that you have to address if you're going to live on this planet. You either got to address them yourself, which is what we're trying to do, or you have to let Obama and corporations and Monsanto and everybody else address them for you. Well, what we're saying is we don't really think that they can do it and are doing it right for us. They're doing it for money. You know, the whole money thing, the whole economy thing has really become God on this planet. And we're not buying it. And so we're looking at addressing these things for ourselves. We're trying again to do it in the developed world, and we're trying to do it in the simple world, the undeveloped world. And what we're really, saying is you don't have to. A lot of people think that to be sustainable or to be green or whatever, they relate back to the hippie days. They're thinking that you have to live in some teepee out in the mountains of New Mexico, and that's the only way to be sustainable or green. What we're trying to show is that, and you'll be going on tours in the global models, they got it. They got flat screen TV, high-speed internet, as much power and water as you want. You know, everything that a normal home has, only more, and it's free. So, but the only way you have to change for the global model Earthship is if you think a house needs to look like this and, have a little chimney and a little door, then you probably need to evolve your thinking a little bit, because people have said for the whole time I've been doing this, the first buildings, they just thought they landed there, and they weren't marketable or anything. The global model Earthship is not that ridiculously odd looking, but it's still odd compared to what people think housing should look like. So you have to evolve. You have to be open to a little bit of change, nothing radical in my mind. Of course, some people would say just walking in the door of one of these buildings is radical. But for simple survival, it's a little more. And I'll be telling you throughout the lectures of how simple survival really happened. But it does require what I would suggest for somebody to really be able to accept the whole simple survival thing is a frontal lobotomy. You're ready. I say that in jest, but I mean it. So I'll show you a few pictures before we get into history of where we are now with Earthships in recent history, and make some points that native peoples and plants and animals have existed for many centuries, and they haven't had a significant effect on the Earth's ability to support humans. These buildings are buildings that address these 6 points I'm talking about. The creatures that I'm talking about encountered Earth phenomena for sustenance. They're prairie dogs and whatever.
Just a quick question, is that the Nautilus before the...
That's a Nautilus before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore. It got engulfed in the monstrosity that's back there now. These creatures, you know, I'm talking prairie dogs, I'm talking trees, I'm talking, you know, even native peoples. But they didn't have what we call an economy. Somehow we invented this thing called economy, and they didn't have garbage. Somehow we invented garbage. You know, we invented the whole concept of garbage, inadvertently. And this is inside the Nautilus, you know, definitely comfortable living, if not magical. So the modern developed people have only been around for a couple hundred years, and they've already trashed the place in terms of its ability to support humans, yeah.
Mike, I was wondering if it's possible to shift a little bit
To your right?
Me shift?
to your right.
Why, you want to see the picture?
Yeah.
You want to see the picture? What's wrong with me?
You are so pretty.
So we've trashed the place in a couple hundred years with our methods of living. Somehow it's an arrogance or something, I think, that we think we can recreate the world. And we're really getting slapped down now with Japan melting down and all, you know, everything going to shit while we're really starting to get humbled, not quick enough, you know. We have the tools with which we trash the world are, in my opinion, economy and garbage. And so I'm asking the question then, our economy, by the way, this picture is inside the hut building that I was just showing there. Every building is full of plants because they are the sewage system, which we'll get into. So I'm asking the question, are economy and garbage the ingredients that have caused modern humans to adversely affect the Earth's ability to support human life? You know, if you go into what economy really is and what garbage really is, you see that economy creates garbage. And so the modern world is set up, presented to us as a system to sustain an economy, and that economy is supposed to sustain the people, and it doesn't. So what I'm saying is I'm turning it inside out. I'm saying a greater world would have a system to sustain the people, regardless of economy. The first step is sustain the people. Show the people how to sustain themselves through encounter of natural phenomenon. Make it a practice. And then the sustenance of people would sustain a little economy, not such a great economy. It would be what I call an insignificant economy. Right now you'd have to say our economy is significant because it's between us and everything. But an insignificant economy is just, you know, the economy that comes about from people after they are all sustained. See, right now, we need economy. It is through economy that we live with all those 6 points: shelter, water, power, sewage, food. You can't approach those things without playing the economy game. And what I'm saying is, if we could establish a situation, which is what we're trying to do here, if we could establish a situation where people had the sustenance of life, they had a way to address those 6 issues without economy, then economy doesn't become so important. It becomes what you do to get a motorcycle or a TV or whatever, not a life. So real economy, the way I would like to see economy approached, is economy is the result, not the means of sustaining people. This is in Jamaica. You're seeing these buildings all over the world. They take different shapes. Jamaica is, you know, Negril, Jamaica is a place where tourists go to party and drink, and they have mountains of beer bottles and beer cans and wine bottles and booze bottles and tires. So the Jamaica building is just an expression of that. So the modern world economy produces garbage. A greater world based on sustenance for people would transform and consume garbage, and that's what we're doing with all these buildings. We're we're turning garbage into gold, really. We build with it. So presently, garbage is the result of economy. There's a whole documentary on that. So what I'm saying is transcend the economy, and you will transform and eliminate the concept of garbage, and we're out of two big bugaboos that plague us right now. And these buildings that I'm showing you are buildings that address those 6 points and make an attempt to do what I'm talking about. So the bottom line, sustenance for people is what we're after, and it's providing comfortable shelter, water, electricity, food, sanitation for all people. That's sustenance for people. That's the issue. We're trying to do that. We're trying to do that in a way that is in, I don't like the word harmony anymore, it's used too much. I don't like green, I don't like sustainable. It's logical. The word that I would have to say is my current favorite word for dealing with all of this is logic. It's only logical not to melt down your planet with a nuclear power plant. You know, and it's only logical you had the choice of spending billions of dollars on a dangerous thing that can destroy the whole planet, or you have the choice of having a solar panel hooked up to the sun yourself and you get your own power. And yes, you need to be somewhat aware of how much power you use. You know, I started out with, 40 some odd years ago with a vertical axis windmill and a dim light bulb, and my toilet was a 55-gallon drum with a hot plate in the bottom of it. And I went through a lot of wives on that situation there. But it evolved to the point where you have a flush toilet. And every one of the buildings has a flush toilet, whether it's bucket flush or not. And you do have a minimum, not a minimum, but you have to be aware of how much power you use. That's another reason that we place you in Earthships, so that you can see what we're talking about. I'll bet you half of you will run out of power at some point during this course, either due to your own misuse of it, or 3 or 4 cloudy days in a row, or malfunction of something we invented. Could be any one of the 3. So, but you're living it. You're seeing what it is, and what I'm seeing now. I've been like I say, I started out with a dim light bulb and a windmill, and where we're at now, flat screen TV, high-speed internet, still being a little bit aware, but solar panels have gotten economical enough that, you can just throw enough of them on. We're actually in the Towers building, which you'll tour through. We have made a major step. We keep making major steps, and it never ends. We felt like in the global model Earthship that we had to relate to the real world enough to make it palatable. I've done so many things that weren't palatable, and it took me a decade to figure that out, and wondered why nobody wanted to get in, buy one of these buildings. But they're buying them now. They're renting them and buying them and doing whatever. So the thing that we did feel like was a token gesture to the real world is give them a gas range, a cooking range. We can make hot water, we can do everything else, but let's give them gas. Let's give them gas. Let's give them gas so they can cook in their normal way. So, we want to make these buildings not so foreign to people. And so we were putting gas ranges in, and then I've just been nightmared out by all these fracking and the gas issue and all the codes and regulations and how they control you with gas. If you don't do everything the way they want you to, they just come and Phil said they came and just cut his regulator off of his